wonderful coach from Brazil. You were in BRZ17, right, Alice?
Yes, I was in
Yeah.
BRZ17.
And then an awesome coach. Do you want to tell everyone what you do now and what you're up to and what you're going to talk about today?
Sure. Well, what I do now is I am a project leader for a partner, a Google partner company here in Brazil. And I'm very proud to say that we won the Partner of the Year Awards for 2019. So you will all hear about us. If you guys work with partners, you will hear about us for education. Now we are under a very strict lockdown in São Paulo, so schools are closed and the schools are looking for ways to transform in-person learning to online learning, and not many are doing a good job. So we've been working a lot lately. I don't even know my name anymore. If you ask my name, I'll give you my phone number. But on the bright side, I think that schools are having a transformation now because of that. In education in Brazil, education in the world will not be the same. So I think these webinars, even though we had planned these webinars way a long time ago, way before we could imagine this happening, I think it came on a perfect timing because we can share what we've been doing. My job primarily is to provide a good experience, a good learning experience in schools. So I work with that. I work with UX in schools. I am starting a new project, which is UX in education, not only in Brazil, but in the US as well. And I'm going to launch a course. And I invited a very good friend of mine, a very special person, which is Jake Knapp, the creator of Design Sprint. And he's going to take part in the course. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be free for teachers to understand what user experience is. And I'm going to share a little bit of the content of that course with you guys, my very special friends, innovators. Before we start, I'd like to ask you to please drop your name and cohort on that Jamboard. Ooh, that looks so cute. Hey, somebody put on the logo for the New York City. I think that we need to add some colors here, Mariana. We have Sydney, we have Brazil, 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 lots of Brazil. We have New York City.
Oh, where's the Jamboard? There it is.
Found? Good. Sydney. There's a place I want to go when this is all over. I'm not into traveling a lot, but Sydney is a place that it makes my heart beat faster anytime I think of the land down under. Okay. Oh, we have Susanna from LA. Nice. All right. How many people we have? 16 people. I'm going to copy the link again. I had already copied. All right. So we have people from all over the place. Awesome. I haven't prepared a deck of slides for you guys. I thought that it would be better if we could create a story together. And before we start creating our story together, I'm going to tell you my story. I'm going to tell you very briefly a little bit of my story and how I ended up here today talking to you guys. So my story starts when I was a 19-year-old student in New York City, living all by myself. I was studying cinema in New York City, and I realized it hit me that I had no idea what I was doing with my life. I had no idea what to do with my life. And any other place in the world, it would be kind of okay, but New York City is quite expensive. Luis and Mariana, they lived there. They can agree with me on that one. And it wasn't a good time for me to be trying to figure out my life. So I was expecting life to help me, and life did. Life and Craigslist landed me a job at a bar. So I started working at a bar as a bartender. I started as a hostess. I worked my way up to bartending, and I was working at a bar. I was very happy, and I actually got promoted. I went all the way to GM, general manager of that bar. It was a beautiful venue, and it was a happy time in my life. I was very happy. As a general manager, I was responsible for organizing parties for the clients. So I had organized football player birthday parties. I organized a wedding. It was a beautiful wedding, Indian theme, and lots of birthday parties, lots of celebrations, corporate events. Even I organized a party for clothing. So I don't remember if it was Gap. It was quite a long time ago. So I was happy organizing parties, but I was working kind of like 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I started getting tired. Even though I was happy, I was tired. So I decided to take a sabbatical year in Brazil, came back to my home country. I decided to just rest and, do some soul searching because I was happy in doing what I was doing, but it took too much of me. I was physically tired, I was mentally tired, I had no time for me. So after 10 months in Brazil, not working, not doing much, I figured that I was bored. I was totally bored. So in New York, I was happy and tired. In Brazil, I was just bored and rested. I wasn't tired anymore. And because I was too bored, my then boyfriend today, love of my life husband, he told me, "Listen, you speak English. Why don't you try to land a gig as an English teacher? Why don't you try to teach English part time, just so you have a purpose while you are figuring out what to do with your life?" And then I thought, okay, sure, why not? Little did I know that my life would change completely when I said, sure. So I started teaching English in Brazil. It was love at first sight. I thought I was happy again. I was mesmerized by how much we impact on people's lives when we teach, especially English, because not many people speak English in Brazil, and it's kind of like a dream for Brazilians to speak English. So when I was teaching them, I was happy, I was fulfilled because I could see them uh, fulfilling their dreams, and I was part of that. But even though I was happy in the classroom, something about teaching made me miserable. It was the bureaucratic side of teaching. It was the school and the reports and you need to do this and that. And I thought, how can I be so happy doing what I do and at the same time so miserable having to do other things? And then I started thinking, what made me so miserable in teaching? Uh, what made me so miserable as a teacher, not teaching. I was happy teaching, but I was miserable as a teacher. And then I came to a conclusion that it was uh, something that was missing as I was teaching, something that I had in the bar. I started thinking, okay, I had something at the bar that was a little bit different than teaching. And I swear it wasn't the booze. It wasn't the amount of alcohol. Although as a teacher, you guys know, right? But I realized that it was a lack of humanity. It was a lack of humanity in the school context that made me miserable. And when I say lack of humanity, I may be harsh. Like we are humans, right? We deal with humans. But when I started teaching, this was back in 2010. Much was said about teacher-centered lesson, going from teacher-centered to student-centered. And I thought that makes sense. So we're focusing, instead of the teacher being the focus of the lesson, it's the students. They are the focus now. This was in theory, but in reality, schools, they were focusing on methodology, they were focusing on content, on curriculum, the amount of curriculum that we were giving to the students, schedules, resources. Was it digital? Was it not digital? Are you using enough technology? Are you not using technology? Not for one moment I could see the human factor in the school context. And when I started thinking, okay, so why I was happy at a bar and I'm not happy at this school? It's because when I was working at a bar, I dealt with people. I dealt with their wishes. You know, what do you want for your party? Oh, I want a Barbie themed wedding. Okay, let's do that. And I realized that it was asking people what they wanted. And this empathy in understanding what people wanted in the bar, that made me happy. It wasn't really the bar. It wasn't really the booze. I promise you guys, it wasn't that only. My bosses were Irish, so I had to drink like extra. But you know, this is another story. I'll tell you guys one day. But it was communicating. I think Luis wrote the exact word that I was looking for. It was connecting with people. It was the interaction that I had with people. And whenever I planned a party, at the end of the party, they would come and say, my God, you made my dream come true exactly the way I wanted. This is what made me happy. It's the same thing when a student passed a test, a university entry test in Brazil, and said, oh my God, I could only do that because you taught me English. And you made my dream come true. So it's that humanity part that made me happy. And this, I couldn't find this in education. So I came across a book. This book changed my design. I read this book at that time when I was trying to figure out what made me happy. Changed My Design by Tim Brown. He's one of the founders of IDEO, the agency, the design agency, one of the best design agencies in the world. And this book introduced me to the concept of human-centered design. And I started comparing human-centered design to teacher-centered lessons and or student-centered lessons, and how different those two things are. So when I finished the book, I thought, okay, especially in page 222, when you guys get this book, because you should, when you read this book, page 222, it talks about how we design future design thinkers. So it works. This book, it changed my mindset as to how I was teaching and how education should be. So I started redefining my entire idea of what education is. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to start from scratch. Everything that I've done so far was just a trial. Now I'm going to really become a teacher, not only a teacher, but a designer for education. And then with the human-centered design, I started researching lots of podcasts, lots of courses, and I came across the term UX. The first time that I heard about UX was on a podcast, a Jake Knapp podcast, by the way. And I started thinking, designing user experience, because UX is user experience. How can I design user experience? And it's exactly what I was doing. I had been doing that my entire life. I just did it in a very informal way because I was doing it by instinct. Okay, what do you want with the party? Let's do it together. Let's talk. I didn't have a process. I didn't have a methodology. I didn't have an approach. I just played by ear. So UX design is when you design the user experience. I'm gonna ask you guys now to either open your mic or drop in a post-it on our Jamboard on board number 2. When you became an educator, were you planning on becoming an educator? Was it part of your life? Was it something that you designed your entire life's experience around, or it was by chance, just like me? Drop a little message there on board number 2 on our Jamboard. You guys can write on a post-it. Nice. So I can read the post-its, all the stories. Most of you became an educator by accident, which is awesome. This is a nice story. I went into education as an assistant teacher so I could pay for college by myself. 20 years later, I'm still in education. Yeah, it's like a bug. When it bites you, you can't get away from it. Many paths to here, but I love melting tech and education. All right. So as you guys finish writing that story, uh, so not always we had we all became educators. Some of you by chance, some of you planned it the entire lives, but there's always something in education that bugs. It could be lack of technology, or it could be too much technology and little humanity. There's lack of uh, empathy, communication. There's no sense of community, and so on. Why do I know that all of us have a pain in education? Because we're Google innovators. If we started the path to become Google innovators, it's because something was bugging us and we found out about the program. We tried to get into the program. We were lucky enough to do. And then we started designing projects and applying projects, and it's a never-ending life story. We're going to be designing projects hopefully for the rest of our lives, hopefully very much together or apart, each in every country. We all have the same pain in education. So I came across UX design, user experience, how we can design the experience of the user. And just to briefly explain what user experience is, if any of you don't know, I don't know if you guys can see my phone, I cannot see my camera, but user experience is what made the turning on button on the phone come on this side instead of up here. Before it was up here. So whenever you had, like, if you had an old iPhone, you had to click up here. So you needed to use both hands. Then people started asking the users, hey, what do you think of the phone? It sucks because I have to use both hands. So if I am like most of us, oh, I'm brushing my teeth and I want to turn on, I need to go on my elbow and it's terrible. I drop my phone, I break all the time. So they designed a button that's here. Oh, but I'm a lefty. Okay, if you're a lefty, it's on your index finger and you can still turn it on. So this is user experience. It's asking the user, asking the person who's consuming and interacting with your product and or service, what they would like to improve in that product and or service. So when we talk about education, we think, okay, so we can ask the users what the users would like to improve in education, and therefore we would improve the user's experience. Awesome. That's it. I found my pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that's it. Happiness. Woohoo. But no, it wasn't that happy. Why not? We're going to go on board number 3. And I'd like to pick your brains on our Jamboard. Oops, number 3, okay? Who are the users in an educational context for you? Who is the user? Okay, nice. All right, so we got many different perspectives, and you already figured that I encountered my first problem in designing a lesson, designing a user experience in education. So you, all of you, uh, you could understand that there is a pickle when we say user experience in education, because who's the user? Some of you wrote teachers and students. Awesome. Teachers first and then students. Great. First and foremost, the students. Okay, so we already have some discrepancy there. So who comes first, the teacher or the student? Both the student teacher. So we have ideas that teachers and students are together. Teachers and coordinators. So the students is out of the picture now. Great. But then I have somebody saying, anyone who wants to use and learn through technology. We got the whole planet now. And then students, teachers, librarians, school leaders, parents, administration, janitors, in short, the whole community. So you guys could imagine when I started realizing, okay, now I need to find out who my user is, what the user's problem is, and then solve it. But who is my user? In a school context, we have not one, not two, not three, but 4 users. We have 4 users at the same time. 4 perspectives of users, I mean. So we have the school, which includes anyone who works at the school besides the teacher. I'm talking about the principal, I'm talking about coordinators, I'm talking about school leaders, I'm talking about tech coaches, I'm talking about janitors and the lady who serves food at the cafeteria. Anybody, it's represented by the school perspective because they always have the same perspective. The second user is the community around the school, but not in the school. So I'm talking about parents, grandparents, siblings. I'm talking about cousins that they go to the same school. I'm talking about people who live next to the school, near the school, because the education, it affects people around the school as well. So I'm talking about community. We have the teachers. That includes the teachers, the librarians, anybody who's responsible for delivering the education. So we're getting closer to the classroom environment, which is where we think that learning happens. And we have, of course, the learners, the people who sit on the chair and say, hey, I want to learn. If we talk about the public sector in schools, we talk about I don't know, 30 to 40 students in a classroom, 1 teacher, maybe a teacher and an assistant teacher. Here in Brazil, we have a somewhat between 30 to 35 students in a classroom. And then we have 2 teachers. If we talk about the private sector, it changes a little bit, but it's mainly the people who sit in a chair, the people who are consuming the learning. If we have 4 users, how would I find the pain? Each one had a pain. The pain of the school leaders is to have the students coming to class and the teachers stop complaining about class. If I talk about teachers, they want the students to learn and stop complaining about the amount of homework, and the parents stop bugging them. If I talk about students, the students will say, hey, my pain is the teacher. The teacher gives you too much homework. I don't have enough time to do all of that. It's boring. I want different classes. If I talk to parents, they say, hey, my kid doesn't have enough homework because he finished the homework in half an hour and then starts bugging me while I'm trying to work at home. So each of them, they have a different perspective of the same pain. And why do I say the same pain? To find out what the user pain is, to find out exactly who I'm going what I'm going to solve, the pain that I'm going to work with, I needed to find a common ground in all different perspectives in a school. This was a challenge that took me about a year and a half, almost 2 years, to figure what is that? What is the one thing that all of them have in common? And it took me a year and a half, almost 2 years. But I would like to see you guys coming up with ideas. What is the common ground in all of these 4 different perspectives as of the users in a school context, in an education context? So board number 4, Go ahead, drop in your ideas. That's so cute. All right. I'm gonna give you guys another minute. Just drop in your ideas. Good. All right. Right now, too much screen time. Yes. About right now, too much screen time. When I was working at a bar, I was not happy because I was working 18 hours a day. I came to Brazil, I became a teacher, and now I am working 18 hours a day. I think I'm going to go back to New York and start bartending again. I'm drinking the same amount of alcohol practically, so it's pretty much the same. All right, so you guys got that there was something wrong that they all figured in common. The common ground with all these four perspectives of users is learning. The parents want the kids to learn. The kids, they want to learn even though they want to have fun, but they want to learn by having fun or have fun while learning. Parents want the kids to learn. Teachers want the kids to learn. School wants the kids to learn. School wants the teachers to learn. So when you talk about technology stress and fear of not knowing everything, we're talking about teachers learning to use technology. The school wants that, the teacher wants that, the kids wants that because once the teachers learn how to use technology, it's going to impact how they will deliver the content to the kids. When we talk about excessive activities, we're talking about learning. If you cannot fill in a cup that's already filled, so you need to empty that a little bit. So you need to give little doses of learning. They don't. Nobody learns all at once. I could never sit and read all my books at once because I would never learn everything. You need to uh, take it into parts. Same thing when somebody said time. Yes, time. So studying a lot, it's not really useful. You need to figure how much time you need to spend in actual formal learning, how much time you need to spend in learning informally, how much time teachers need to spend preparing. So it's all related to learning. That's the pain. That's where the pain is. Learning was not okay. There was something wrong with learning. And what was wrong with learning? What did I figured that was the pain in learning is exactly how little humanity there was in learning and how much content, methodology, the thing that I figured that made me miserable, it's exactly what made everyone else in all aspects of the school miserable as well. So I started figuring out the pain. Okay, so what's the pain in teachers? The teachers, they had a pain in learning because students weren't learning, but teachers did not stop and ask the students what, how, when they wanted to learn. Students, I asked the students, what's your pain in learning? Oh, my teacher gives me too much homework, but they didn't stop to try and understand and try and interact with the teacher. There was no communication with these two characters in the whole education context. Same thing with school leaders. I asked school leaders, okay, so what's the problem with teachers and learning? All the teachers, they don't want to learn. They say they're too old for technology. They don't want to try, and I cannot fire them or I cannot force them, and they don't move forward. But the school leaders never stopped to ask the teachers why they thought it was necessary for them to learn technology. Actually, they didn't stop to try and convince the teacher the importance of learning technology. They didn't explain the reason why technology is vital today. Today is vital. Without technology, I would not even eat because I'm ordering food every day. And the parents never ask the students, hey, why don't you like doing your homework? Or what, instead of asking the students, what did you learn today? What did you like about school today? And so there was a lack of empathy in all these parts. I needed to show everyone how they can learn and how they can improve the learning experience. So I brought in another book. I brought in actually it's this book first. I read this book, The Power of Moments. This book changed my life for the second time. Because this book, I think on the last webinar we were talking about this book, it shows exactly how we can, little things that we change impact experience in a very definite way. And I did an experiment today. I didn't have time to do it here in this webinar, but I've been doing a webinar all day. So I did an experiment. I delivered the same webinar for two groups. The first group, I played music. And I figured that the participants, they were about 30 to 40. So it would be our age range. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to play some music for you guys while we're waiting for the webinar, and started playing Tears for Fears. I don't know if you guys know this band. I love this band. It was in the 80s. They were very famous. And they all started the webinar very calm and very cool, like nostalgia, that good experience. The other group, I didn't play any music. I just waited in silence for everyone, and then I said, okay, let's start. It completely changed how people interacted with me during the webinar. So this book showed me that, I'm going to give the names of this book at the end. This book showed me that experiences, little things can change experience. So all I had to do now, I figured the pain, I figured the user, I figured how I would do it, little things that I could change to help them, but I wasn't sure as to the delivery of that experience. And then I came across this book, Sprint. I'm pretty sure you guys heard of this book before. If we've been through the academy, the Google Innovator Academy, so we've been through this process, the process of going from nothing to something ready in few time. In our case was 2 or 3 days. Sprint is a methodology to solve problems in a very fast way. And I fell in love with the idea of sprinting with education. So I designed two ways of applying design sprint to design sprint, a methodology, the methodology to design a better user experience in the school, in an education context. One way was to use it to design lessons. So I would gather all the teachers, we would sprint for some time and come up with lessons. Each teacher had different lessons. Sometimes they were interconnected. So we had lessons. So you can use a sprint to design the lesson, or you can use a sprint to design learning, to deliver learning. So I started using it with the students as well. And when I started using a design sprint with the students, the first time I did it was with a bunch of 15-year-old boys. And I asked, I had to read a very long article with them. And we were studying the vocabulary. It was National Geographic article, 2 pages long. It was very difficult to read. And then I thought, okay, they need to read this article, but they won't do it. So I'm going to fake a situation for them to read the article in a way to help them in the situation. So I used the design sprint. They needed to design a marketing campaign for a lotion, a wrinkle lotion, uh, and for women, for older women. And they needed to design this marketing campaign based on what women wanted. So they needed to interview the users. And the article was talking about the enigma of beauty and how different cultures perceive beauty differently. So I asked them, all right, so do you know what women want? Take a look at the article and see if you can find any information. So they started looking into the article. They read the whole thing 3, 4 times. And then I said, okay, did you gather enough information? No, all right, so let's interview other people. So they started interviewing other teachers in the school. They interviewed me. I was mad as hell at them because I'm not old enough for wrinkle cream, but they started interviewing. They gathered the information. They created empathy. They communicated with people. So this was the change in learning. They were interested in learning because they were actually listening to people and they were communicating. They were creating something real and useful. They came up with the marketing campaign. They actually recorded a commercial, and because it was only boys and it was for a woman, they actually had to wear a wig, and it was very fun. And they figured that women at our age, we don't want anything to do with pink calm songs. We want to wear bright red lipstick and black shirts. I swear it wasn't my influence on them. They came up with that on their own. And we want to listen to heavy metal. We play sports. We multitask. We're not the old ladies that commercials paint us. We are active, and we wanted a campaign that's similar. That one lesson opened my eyes as to how learning should be and how we can design a better learning, a better user experience for the learner, how the learner will use learning and have a better experience with that. And so I started taking the methods, the processes of design sprint, design thinking. I used jobs to be done, agile methods, everything, and I started applying to how we use in the classroom, how we teach. And then I came across another difficulty, another problem: content. Every teacher that I would say, hey, why don't you sprint with our students? Oh, but I have a curriculum to follow. I have a syllabus. I have a schedule. I have content to deliver. And UX is not a set process. It's a very flexible process that you can insert your learning in the process, just like I did with the design sprint. I wanted the students to read an article. It would take me over three 3 days for them just to convince them to read the article and gather the vocabulary. So, and at the end, they would just do it, memorize the words, and not really gather any knowledge from the article. So delivering content can be inserted in the process of design. So when I talk about UX design in the classroom and students flip because they say, hey, I don't have time for that. Guess what? You save time. What you can teach in 2-3 weeks, you can actually use in 1 week, insert the learning in the design. The students will be engaged in the content much more, and they will learn much faster. So then I started realizing for teachers, all right, so I solved the problem for students. The school was very happy. The parents were very happy. Parents, I say, it's the community, family, but the teachers were not, because they started thinking, all right, but if I do this, how do I prepare my lessons? I don't know if the students will create something useful or not. So I came across a third problem, which was the control. And this is something that we all encounter. When we talk about teachers, hey, why don't you use technology? They imagine robots taking over their jobs and them starving on the street the next day. And teachers, they need to have control of their learning. So when I realized that teachers need to have control of that learning, sometimes for them, it means I need to be the one that knows everything in the classroom. And we know that this doesn't exist anymore, but some teachers, they still have this mindset. And mindset is a key word. How did I solve that problem? I started delivering more and more design sessions with the teachers, design sprint sessions, design thinking sessions, to change their mindset that life is unpredictable and so is learning, and so should be learning. We cannot predict how, what, and when students will learn. We can just facilitate that situation. And we can facilitate learning, but we cannot force people to learn. If we could, I swear, it would be much easier to teach, and we wouldn't exist because there wouldn't be any pain in education, and there wouldn't be a need for this program. But it's not that simple. So I advise, especially tech coaches and teachers that work with teachers, when we talk about control, um, taking away people's control is very powerful. It's very powerful. Let's take, for example, we are now under a lockdown. If I tell you you cannot go outside anymore, you feel horrible. You feel horrible. You feel miserable, and it's suffocating. Oh my God. If I tell you, okay, you can go out now, but you will get sick, you will feel even worse. Oh my God, but people are going out and I can't go and it's terrible. So I'm taking away your control. You don't have control anymore of where to go, and you feel bad. But you need to think, instead of taking control, you need to give them a reason to lose control. So instead of throwing them the what, you throw them the why first. Adults learn like that. We need to know why we're learning. We need to have motivation before learning takes in the head. So I started giving teachers motivation to change. Okay, guys, so you know that terrible teaching conference that we have, teachers conference that we have that takes like 10 hours of you sitting down and writing down, or those horrible meetings, staff meetings in school that takes like 5 hours of everybody talking, and the only good thing about it is cold coffee at the end, because it's already cold when you go and have the coffee. So instead of doing that, let's do a design sprint. Let's do a 1 hour sprint, note, seek, and vote exercise very quickly. And you will see that we're going to solve one problem, one time problem at the end, but nobody's going to talk for endless hours. And you start using it with teachers. Teachers will understand the power of losing control for a reason. They will understand. So I had three main problems that I solved, and learning became much easier after I started applying this. So I've talked so much today. So I'd like to ask you guys, fifth board, could you please write a post-it or draw a nice picture? If you could change anything in the school right now, what would you change? Organization, okay, schedules, genius hour. Oh my God, that's awesome. The right way, flexibility in learning, blended learning. Yes. Number 4 is to do the online learning. When we get back to the school, I'm sure that students will ask for blended learning. Okay. All right, we're running out of time, so we won't have time. You're going to solve this problem, and I'm going to give you a very nice and simple process that I would like you to apply next time you go in the school, or next time you have a staff meeting and you can present this. This is a note, seek, and vote exercise from the design sprint. And we're going to use board number. Let's see, I'm going to copy these. And I'm going to post it on board number. I don't know how to post on a different board. So I'm going to just copy I don't know how to use text, sorry guys. A note, seek, and vote is a exercise that you come up with a problem. So on number 5, we came up with several problems. What I would do is ask all of you to vote on this problem. These problems, actually. So how do we vote? We get a pen. Let's get a thicker pen, like a marker, and we put a little dot on the post-it that we find more relevant. So this is the note, seek, and vote. We first write down the problem, we stick on the board, and everybody votes. So I'm going to ask you guys on board number 5, vote on the problems that you think are more important right now, more relevant, that ones that you want to solve. And you can use different colors of marker. I think I'm going to vote for the blended learning. And definitely this. So each of you will get 2 votes. You can vote for the same or you can vote for different one. Okay, did everybody vote? We need to untie this. If you guys all finished voting, I'm going to ask you to get an extra dot and vote again. Vote one more time. Okay, we voted on a problem. The winner is use tag correctly, not for tag's sake. I knew it was gonna win. I even got it on the extra board. So you can ask your whoever is participating. Now we're going to brainstorm solutions. They have to write down different solutions, stick down the solutions, stick up the solutions on the board, and vote. This is a simple design exercise that you can start doing with teachers to change their mindset as to why design is so important. We have 2 minutes. We don't have any more time, but this is an example of how design can actually, how UX design can actually impact the experience of everyone in the learning context.
Well, everybody give Alice a huge round of applause. Yay.
Oh, actually, let's take a print screen of everyone.
Yeah.
If you open your camera.
And then I'm going to choose a winner for our door prize, the books that Alice showed. So I'm just closing my eyes and picking a winner. Our winner, we got Jorge as a winner. One more.
Woohoo!
Is
One more.
Leslie's a winner. Woo!
Yay! Nice.
So email info to get your copies. And thank you, Alice, so much. It was really nice to have you here. So great. That's a really cool way to use the voting process and design process with Jamboard. So thanks for this. And we have another one in a couple of weeks. So come, it's a great chance to connect with other innovators and learn something new. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. I wasn't sure how to deliver these webinars. I'd like to get to listen much more. I think I talked too much, but I hope it was useful for you guys. And if you have any questions about design sprint in education, I'm doing this project with Jake Knapp, the guy who wrote this book. So if you guys have any questions, I can drop in my email. Is it okay, Wendy? You can send me your love. You can send me a check. Oh, sorry. You can send me some questions, some ideas, suggestions. Okay, I'm all ears for my friends, my fellow Google innovators. Oh yeah, I'm gonna write down my number as well. WhatsApp is awesome. I live on WhatsApp. Cool. Luis, I'm gonna drop you a message later on. Okay, guys, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your patience and attention. And I hope to meet you guys soon again.
Thanks so much, Alice. That's great.
Thanks,
Bye.
Leslie. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you very much, Alice. Boa noite.
Boa noite, Luiz. Thank you.